Hi, this is Siofra Brad again, and this is Siofra's Magic Alcove. So, this will be our attempt at doing a video about working with the Akasha. The Akasha is the fifth element after earth, air, fire, and water. Akasha is basically spirit, be another word that people use to describe it. It's the thing that makes human beings unique. And it's difficult to quantify because its properties are so vast. Basically, Akasha is the fabric of space and time. It's the thing that connects the past, the present, and the future. Your past lives, your present lives, your future lives. And it connects the universe together, not just us, but all of the universe. The Akasha is how the universe remembers things. And our concept of time, as we've talked about before, is linear in because of the fact that we're experiencing time in a physical form. So in a body, we experience time as we're born, we have experiences, we grow, and then we pass out of this life when we die, whenever that happens to be along that line. But in a physical form, time is sequential. So birth is followed by growth, is followed by maturity, is followed by death. So these things are all in an order. The universe, on the other hand, does not experience time the same way we do. The space-time continuum, or whatever you want to call it, it's like everything at once. So past, present, and future are connected together in ways that we have a hard time visualizing and imagining. It's one of the reasons why it's difficult for a lot of people to work directly with the Akasha. So the Akashic Records is that part in the Akashic plane where sometimes we can tap into that past, present, future, everything is now kind of reality, and in some cases re-experience or see other people's lives, our own lives, future events, potential events, because we also have, the parallel universes, multiple universes kinds of concepts out there as well. So I had an experience with the Akashic Records when I was younger. Somewhere along the line, I was told that you couldn't go to the Akashic Records to look up your own lifetimes, that was bad. Now, I'm not sure where I got this idea. I'm not sure what the source of this concept was. I have no clue if it's valid or not. I just know that at the time, that's what I believed. Sort of incorporated into my being on some level, some way. And so since I felt like I couldn't go there on my own, I never went. I met a woman up in Canada, and I think I've talked about this in another video, but it bears repeating, who came to me in a dream state on the astral or mental plane and asked me to help her. She was having difficulty. She was a barber. She was having poltergeist activity around her. Radios were turning themselves on and off. Light bulbs were blowing up. that kind of thing. She had the urge to kill her customers whenever she was giving a man a shave, which kind of worried her. And she wanted to know what the source of that was. And before I ended up at the Akashic Records, I did an energy healing on her and discovered that she had a collapsed crown chakra. It was like her energy field went up like this and then sort of dove down. And I've seen this twice in my life so far. And the second time was somebody who was very much in tune with the stream of time without the ability to discern what was going on and couldn't tell the difference between fantasy and reality, thought forms versus actual spirit beings or whatever. So it was sort of a surprise. This was the first time I'd encountered that kind of energy field collapsing in on itself, and I pulled it up. That seemed to be an instinctive thing to do. It's like, that's not supposed to be in the middle of your head, that's supposed to be above your head. And I think it provides a certain amount of protection from all the other things that might be out there and whatnot, and helps to give you a level of control over your own abilities. As we've talked about, shielding and that kind of thing might make you prone to the potential of being influenced by spirit energies and all sorts of stuff. So anyway, when she came to me in my dream and asked me to do that, I did. Now, I wasn't doing it on purpose and I wasn't doing it consciously. It just sort of happened, which is pretty typical of some of my experiences, where it's like, unless the need appears and it seems like it's something that needs to be taken care of, then I find no reason to do it. But this gave me a reason to do it. And I'm not sure how long I had been there in the Akashic Records, for want of a better term. But I was like standing, I became conscious at some point of standing in front of what looked like a podium with an open book on the podium, and behind me was a being that I took to be the keeper of the records. That was my interpretation of what I was experiencing. And he or it was standing over my shoulder and telling me to look and remember, and repeating that over and over again, look and remember, look and remember. Because one of the hallmarks of the Akasha is that it's very difficult to actually bring things back from that realm. It's more tenuous than having a dream, for example. It's like, we know how fast we can forget what happens to us when we're sleeping, when we have a dream image. If we don't immediately talk about it when we first wake up or write it down, usually by a couple of hours of being awake, it's pretty much gone. So, at that point, when I started to hear the look and remember, I realized I was looking at this page, and I can't say that there was writing. It was more pictures, moving pictures and feelings that were coming out of the page. And it was like each page was a single life of this woman. And there were two pages open, the one she was in and the one she just had. And the pictures and the feelings that I got were very specific and surprising. What I saw was that she was a prison guard in one of the camps in Germany during World War II, and she enjoyed her job. And then the Allies came and were getting ready to free the camp. You know, it was towards the end of the war. And she was not very high up on the strata of Nazis. each one, depending on your level, according to the age, you received different kinds of exit strategies. And since she wasn't in the higher echelons of the party, her exit strategy was an alternate identity and papers to go with it, and then a place to live in a town in northern Germany. So she got out of there and went to live at this town. And then when the Allies moved in and they processed all the people who were there and they were released, it turned out that one of them lived in that same town that she had been sent to. And when they arrived in the town, they recognized her immediately because it just happened. And they cooked up a plot and broke into her place and tortured her and killed her and stuck her body in a like a seat, that you window seat kind of thing is what it looked like. And she was angry and furious and offended. How dare he? Who did he think he was? Kind of thoughts. And then immediately was reborn and had this huge amount of energy attached to the energy that came in to the woman that I knew. And the keeper explained to me that this was a case of spiritual dual personality, that the former personality had not processed any of that. It had been such a rage filled instant transfer of energy that the original personality, the one from the previous life, came in fully aware with one goal in mind: to find the person who killed them and kill them. And of course, that didn't work out very well because they weren't actually born in Germany, although she told me later that she knew German when she was little. She was adopted by a family and they didn't know where she came from, but she spoke fluent German when she was like 3 years old, which was kind of interesting, sort of like a validation of that information because I had no idea of any of that actually. And so that's what I remembered, and I decided to let her know what I had seen since she had asked me to see it, and then they had let me see it and made me remember seeing it, so it seemed like a good idea. I really have no clue what she ended up doing with the information. I told her about it, and that's when she told me about the speaking German when she was little and stuff like that. So whether this helped her or not, who knows? And it's not a common experience that I have, and it's not something I try to do, not something I work at. So that's just one of my experiences of the Akasha. So we have a video about the planes, the mental plane, the astral plane, and the Akasha plane. And so the Akasha describes not just an element, but also a plane of reality, and they're connected. I mean, they are the sort of the same stuff, the same properties, even though one is a plane and one is an element. So again, confusing and difficult to work with. And if you can learn how to work directly with that kind of energy, then you can affect things in a broader sense. So since the Akasha is not bound by time or space, then you can put something into the Akasha and send it back in time, or send it into the future, or send it to someone else who exists now somewhere else. And if you do it effectively enough, you can have real transformation take place. So one of the things that I've noticed is that although you can't change the actual your history is your history. The things that happened to you remain the same, but by working with the Akasha, you can change their effect upon your present by sending energy back into the past or by getting what we call overview. Akasha is really good for helping you to get overview, since it does that throughout all time and space kind of thing. When you make that kind of a connection, then you see what you're going through is just one drop in the bucket of all of your existence, and not as all-consuming, vital, important as to what happens in this one. Um, and it's not like you don't care what's going on in your life, but it means that you have better perspective on what that actually means in the larger picture. So when I was channeling, one of the entities or energies, I'm not even sure what to call this one, that came through was basically called silence, and it was the Akasha, kind of like almost a personification of the Akasha, because when it happened, it was very strange for me as a channel, because I called it stillness, actually, and in that state of extreme quiet nowness, I could see the river of time below, and someone could ask me a question, and then I could see the thread from the present into the past to the origins of that question, and then pictures would pop up out of that stream, and I could follow a storyline or a sequence or whatever, and then say what I saw. Although I did not care for doing it, I did not like that degree of detachment, I guess. It was extreme detachment, and that's not what I'm after in particular. So, the experiences that I've had over the years of working with the Akasha, a lot of it has to do with working with the things, the trauma and stuff that happened to me when I was younger, and sort of sending energy backward in time to change the effects of that on my present so that it's not such an overwhelming experience and gives me more control over what I'm doing. It sort of puts me more in the driver's seat of my own development. And that's part of what magic, witchcraft, ritual, all of that is about taking charge of your own spiritual development instead of just letting forces kind of toss you around. So we have a project that we're currently doing that uses the concept of the Akasha plane with the amethyst crystal web thing. And, the idea of that is that if we get the energy up into the Akasha and let it settle back down, then we're spreading this energy through time and space as well as the present. So it's like the past, present, future, and through all time and space, and connecting all those energies together in order to change the present. And I think that's partly what the 100th monkey philosophy, thing is an example of. When enough people think that way, think a different way, then all of a sudden it's like we've always thought that way, and how did we not realize that until now, that this is obvious, that this is the way to be? So I did make an Akasha Wand. So this is my wand for working with the Akasha and for bringing energy up into and down from the Akasha plane. And this is all amethysts and a clear quartz. And the wood I used is a tulip tree, magnolia, which just seemed perfect to me because of the shape of the flower being so much like a lotus, and the lotus, blossoms representing the chakras and different states of existence and so forth, and the opening up of the lotus to self-awareness and consciousness and whatnot. So it fit my brain. Whether that would work for you or not, who knows? But I only have my particular experiences to go by when it comes to this. So the other thing to think about when you're wanting to work with Akasha is the fact that all of existence came out of that space first. It's the actual first element, even though in Barden's book he talks as fire as being the first element. When it comes to the five elements, Akasha is the first and the last element because it encompasses everything from the beginning to the end and everything in between. And it's from that fabric of consciousness of the universe that all existence coalesces down from into the other planes of reality. So, the kernel or the seed of everything starts off there. And then if it becomes strong enough, it comes down into the mental plane to be a plan, like a blueprint, an idea of something more substantial. And then it goes down into the astral plane, and some life form picks it up and then sort of follows that plan and puts energy into that plan to begin the process of manifesting that plan. And then it comes down into the physical world and becomes something real that we can touch and interact with. So that's one of the reasons why it's difficult to talk about the Akasha. One of the many reasons is because the languages that we use to try and explain that sort of fall in on top of each other as we go. So you can accumulate Akasha, but there's no way to explain how you do that because of the nature of it is so ephemeral. One of the magic tools of the Akasha is the cauldron, because it represents the center of things, a place where things collect, get transformed, and then come back out and spread. So that's certainly one of the tools in a circle that you can use if you're going to be doing all five directions. I've done that, where I've put the cauldron in the center of the circle to represent that meeting place, that point. And it's like everything and nothing at the same time. So, however you can figure out how to wrap your brain or your thoughts or your concepts or your energy around that, that's always an interesting experiment to try and figure that out. Ways you can use the Akasha magically if you actually succeed at learning how to accumulate and manipulate it and be there and do things in there is planting seeds in other people's thoughts, spirits, minds, cultures, civilizations, and seeing them take root and become, spreading things through time and space, affecting your own past and future, as I've mentioned. Apparently, if you're really good at it, you can hide your own spirit from the Akasha so that people who could potentially see what you were doing, because they were adept, couldn't see you because you were more adept and you were able to hide yourself. I've never felt the necessity for doing anything like that, but I've read about it, and Barden talks about it for sure in one of his books, or maybe more than one of his books. Um, so, ways that you can become more acquainted with it would be through meditation. It's that would be the thing that the quieting the mind, stillness meditations are trying to achieve, sort of unmooring you, in a sense, from the life that you're in to get a view of more of existence. But you want to make sure that you're doing that in an environment that you feel comfortable and safe in, and not do it if you don't feel safe about doing it. Because you don't have to do that. I mean, it's part of who we are. And it's part of all reality, and it's in everything, and through everything, and around everything, and just there. Yep. We don't have good enough language. Not enough common experiences, I guess, in order to gain a language base from which to launch a discussion about it. So, I think that's about all I can say on the subject at the moment. Um, Amethysts are good for working with the Akasha because the Akasha is seen as like purple, dark purple mostly. And so the dark purple amethysts definitely lend their physical appearance and color spectrum to the whole notion. And it's through those kinds of meditation in on the Akasha that you might get glimpses of past, present, or future lives, or greater understanding of what's going on in the one that you're in. Yep. So I'm thinking that's about all I can say on the subject. If I think of anything else, I'll definitely let you guys know. And if you've gotten this far, we're not having a live show this week because it's Mother's Day. I'm going to post it on our community board for those who aren't watching. Um, and spending time with family on Sunday outside in the park. So if I get home early for some reason, I might just decide to come in and have a quick chat with everybody, but don't expect me. And I'm hoping that everyone else who has family is doing the same thing and spending time with their loved ones and making their connections and that kind of stuff, or out in nature and making connections with the Mother Earth, whatever feels right. So until I see you guys again and do my next video, I guess I'll say, have a good time, enjoy yourself. Been thinking of you, will continue to think of you. You've got my email account at shifrasmagicalcove@gmail.com, and you can send me questions. And when we get a chance, we'll answer any questions that we get as well as I can, or as Ian can. So until then, enjoy the change of the season wherever you are, whether you're going into the dark or into the light. And this has been Siofra's Magic Alcove, and I'm Siofra Brad again. Blessed be.